Welcome to the spot. It's time to ignite. Oh yeah. Operation Hangout. The feeling's just right. Chilling with the crew. We're ready to groove. Opinions flying high. Come on, let's move. Hang out all night long, all night. Laughing and debating, playing our song. Oh yeah. Share your thoughts, don't be shy. Don't be shy. Operation Hangout, let's reach for the sky. Let's fly. Pull up a chair, let's get in the zone. Voices blend and smooth like a funky trombone. Oh yeah. Topics from the heart, making us think. With a twist and a shout, raise up your drink. Cheers. Hang out all night long, all night. Laughing and debating, playing our song. Oh yeah. Share your thoughts, don't be shy. Don't be shy. Operation Hangout, let's reach for the sky. Let's fly. Bring it down, shake it up, feel the beat. With every word we share, the circle's complete. Living loud, thinking proud, that's what we do. Oh yeah. Join the club, come on through, we're waiting for you. Alright. Hang out all night long, all night. Laughing and debating, playing our song. Oh yeah. Share your thoughts, don't be shy. Don't be shy. Operation Hangout, let's reach for the sky. Let's fly. Hang out.
What is going on, everybody? We're back at it with another stream, another episode. You know where you're at. You're at Spartan Institute Network. This show is called Operation Hangout. How is everybody doing tonight? Tonight is going to be a bittersweet episode. I decided to change the episode because what has happened this week is tragic, heartbreaking, and depression. But we're not going to get into the heartbreaking depression. I want to talk about his career, his legacy, the legend he became. Before I do that, I can't do this show by myself. Of course, I need to bring my little helper, my little friend, my little Groot.
Long sound.
Are you sleeping on me?
Long sound.
Fuck you.
Better. Better.
Show your ugly face, please. Thank you.
Until he get a correct, I'll be doing that from now on because nothing little about me.
Listen, there's only one big kahuna here, and it is me.
Yeah, but I didn't say I'm a kahuna. I'm talking about big beer. Beer part. That's the difference.
So
I relate to my American animal spirit.
oh,
I'm not gonna say the African spirit. If I'm in Africa, it'll be a different spirit.
you walked into that one.
Ladies and gentlemen, let's vote for that soundtrack to be removed. If you say aye, put a number one in the chat.
You walked into that one, buddy. You walked into them. You know it. All right,
Oh,
ladies and gentlemen, I have the link already in the chats. Please join us if you like. The rules are very simple. Keep it clean. Keep it professional. No, no racist comments, all that stuff. Cameras must be on. Mic must be on. Very simple. David,
yeah.
we talked about it a little bit on Thursday. Paul announced it. Tragically, the legend, the myth, Hulk Hogan has passed. What were you when the news hit you first? I'm gonna get that part out of the way.
When we'll be frank with you,
Mm,
when I heard of it passed, the first thing came to my mind is how would the black community react to this?
all right. Before you move your thought, I want to give a big shout out to Eric and a very happy, happy birthday to him. Go ahead, David.
The reason I say that because somehow he fall in the controversial mix for the past couple of years due to some of his past statement, some of his derogatory mention, or how he felt about certain wrestlers in the business. And wrestling is America's pastime, but wrestling is also one of the biggest, most highly influential culture of our time today.
Hmm.
I don't care what anybody think about because this thing transcends throughout the United States because other countries are investing in that as well. So when I say the black man, I talk about the Africans, I talk about the black American community who feel as if Hulk Hogan had disrespect them. Because this among conversation, we know a lot of great black wrestlers who don't get the recognition like they should have been getting, but not as much as the other counterpart.
Hmm.
So when they had that issue about Hulk Hogan the past few years, I saw in some comments, I saw in some blog, people were going in. Recently, on my feed, I didn't want to watch it, but they were telling the reaction to Hulk Hogan there by the black community. I was like, I don't want to watch. I don't want to know because it's going to be very, very disrespectful, and I don't want to put that in
And
my
it
mind.
was very disrespectful. I saw the comments and I realized that. But I want to touch base that really fast, and I want to get into it in a second about his career. So Booker T has literally came on air before his death, has
Hmm.
said, "Listen, the guy was going through some dark times, and Hogan admitted he was addicted to painkillers, drinking heavily, so he wasn't in the right mind. Number one, number two,
He,
he walked away from his faith." And number three, he ever all of his family issues is gone.
he
I'm
wasn't the only one in that era that had that. That was a plague that was brought in by Vince McMahon. He didn't want to hold accountable for doing why. Besides blaming Hulk Hogan on that myth, who did decide to wipe off all his great accomplishments after one fatal mistake? My fellow Canadian, Chris Benoit.
that's a touchy subject because they wiped him out because how he pretty much exited our lives.
I know, but at the end of the day, it was inflamed by alcohol and painkillers.
It wasn't because of alcohol neither. Yeah, they found out it was I don't remember what it's called. Football sufferer two is when you get
Co-
take too much shot to the head.
Concussion.
It's part of the concussion. DDP or TP, something like that is a thing called. I'm gonna look it up right now. But he wasn't in the right mind.
And they talk about that particular part that not being properly treated among a lot of wrestlers due to Vince McMahon.
Oh yeah, that I'm not denying that one bit.
So it, like I said, I look at the big picture. I can't blame him for the statement he's made if he's under the influence of something that is messing their balance of being aware of what they're saying. Booker T came out because he understand that era very, very well. That era was very poisonous. Only very few survive it and come out unscathed. The rest, they have trauma. Even Eddie Guerrero was going through that too as well. Alcohol, painkiller, concut. It's it's a very messy combination. And I know Chris Benoit lost because his best friend Eddie Guerrero passed. And that I hate to say it, Eddie Guerrero was Chris Benoit's anchor. If everybody don't understand the backstory, they were the very close of best friend.
Oh yeah,
Eddie,
he took it very hard. He took it very hard.
Eddie Guerrero was Chris Benoit's brother in arms. That's the man that helped. And when you lose someone like that, and you don't have anyone that close like that to you, that's a downward spiral. And one who took Eddie Guerrero death harder than his wife was Chris Benoit. And I hate to say that Chris Benoit was my favorite wrestler of all time. As a Canadian. So when people were clapping on him, I had to keep quiet. And I get it. They got right to say that, but if you don't know the big picture, then what can you say? So imagine how that could apply to Hulk Hogan.
Hmm.
You get my point?
Yeah. So with the Chris Benoit situation, he was suffering from, I can't remember what it's called. I can't find it for some reason. Uh, TPT, TCP, something like that. So when you suffer way too many concussions, your head is not right.
I
That's why
know.
they took the chair shots away. Now, what? That's why you see them put their hands up to protect their heads. Um, it was a movie about it. I think, I'm not mistaken. I believe.
First, it was done on NFL because they had way too many concussion shots to the head. Even the helmet was not strong enough to protect them from that. Then it was WWE. Before WWF, before it turned to WWE.
Yeah, I believe Will Smith played in a movie about it. I'm not mistaken. He was the it was actually an African doctor who discovered it or
Mm-hmm.
this is going on, and Hogan probably suffered from some of it too. Most old wrestlers suffer from
Mm-hmm.
it.
Mm-hmm.
So it's
That is
tragic
actually,
anytime. Go ahead. I'm sorry, David.
it's actually true, but this is why I'm saying when we will talk about anything concerning wrestling, any wrestler, it's hard to stand behind it when there's a controversy behind it. Hogan controversy is not as heavy as Chris Benoit, that I know. But Chris Benoit was not mentally himself for a while, right after his close up best friend, like his brother and aunt, passed away. That was the first person could have been put on suicide watch immediately and have medical care to make sure he's okay. But they didn't do that, did they? Now, another person who formed that mix is China. It wasn't concussion, but with multiple betrayals, alcohol, drugs, and etc. She was betrayed on multiple levels. She was ridiculed on multiple levels.
Okay, I'm sorry, Coach. I found it finally. Will Smith played in a movie called Concussion. Actually, the movie's called. And Dr. Ohamo, I might be completely butchering that wrong, and it's called CTE. Football players mostly suffer it, but now it's discovered into, I'm sorry, uh,
Wrestling.
thank you, wrestlers, because of the headshots and all the headshots they
And
get.
it will soon be discovered in MMA very, very soon.
Absolutely, yeah, I'm not denying that one bit. But what my point is trying to get to, Chris Benoit, yes, he had addiction problems with painkillers and steroids and all that stuff, but when they did biopsy, I believe, to his body. I'm not 100%. Again, don't quote me on this completely because I'm not 100% positive. But they found it was his suicide was because his mental health was already fractured, and the CTE pushed him over the edge to the point like he took his kid's life and his wife's life, and that's you're talking about a double homicide plus a suicide. That's it. Go ahead, David.
And the thing is, I'm glad you mentioned all this because a organization that have these people go through so much damage and did not care for such their mental health. Let's not throw it in Owen Hart situation.
I'm not denying none of this, but I'm not denying how big the company is. They should take care more the wrestlers. The only thing I am going to knock Hogan on right now, when Jesse Ventura was trying to start a union, he blackmailed them on it pretty much.
And that you want to protect a lot of wrestlers.
Yeah, and you'll get all the medical second. Like that's why now Paul Levesque, aka Triple H, is making him get through all the physicals and all this stuff. Not because the companies merged with two different companies. That was Triple H because he probably got a couple of headshots. You
And
know,
he know that, and he's aware of it. He just realized, okay, this is no joke.
look at his heart. Good
I know
example.
his heart, his health. It got to deteriorate a little bit too fast than necessary. So you can imagine when he realized, okay, this is not a joke.
I
Jesse
personally
Ventura,
believe anybody who dies under 90 is too young because again, I work in the healthcare industry. I see it personally. I see people live up to 80 and 90.
I,
And that's a normal age now with our how advanced our medical field.
I told you how one person passed away working at a job when I was working at the NYPD. Remember I told you about that story?
Briefly, I remember.
How one young lady who had to work through the week and she worked during the weekend. One weekend I did not see her after I clocked out for that Friday, even though they were going through some other time and I made them laugh. The next weekend I don't hear from them. 2 weeks later I asked them about what's going on. They told me that weekend that you clocked out, that next day she had a heart murmur and she passed away. Young girl, 29,
Mhm.
due to the stress working at the NYPD 911 call center.
People don't realize
That
the stress of the jobs, and like my job is very stressful. I'm responsible for the whole building, get all the food out and all this stuff. But we're not here to talk about our jobs. We're talking about Hogan's career.
I want to say Hogan career, yeah, I will put it like
Legendary.
this. It's legendary. He did open a lot of door. He made wrestling as big as it is, not without controversy, but other than that, he was the linchpin to the WWF versus TNA, aka WCW war, which is very monumental. Um,
The Monday Night Wars.
I know.
David, you don't need to cry. It's fine.
No, I'm not crying. My eyes itching. I ain't crying for nothing. Don't play yourself. I'm just. Whew, I had a lot of things in my mind today, but this topic about Hulk Hogan, yes, he have a lot of good point, maybe a few bad point, but at the end of the day,
So
he contribute a lot.
when I heard the news, I was actually at work. I was getting doing my thing, cooking. So I always check my feed through the day, make sure everything's cool. You know, check our the YouTube stuff. And I end up checking. First feed popped up was Pop Culture Order, our friend CQ, and he posted it, and I replied, "What?" And he goes, "Unfortunately, it's true. He did pass. Anything comes from Pop Culture Order is legit because he does his homework, he does his research. It was in an hour after his death. It was announced. And it was fast. So so I just started digging, and obviously I found out later on through that night, because later through the day, before Paul announced it on the Gen X show, was he died from cardiac arrest because he had complication with his throat surgery a week prior. So that is a hard thing to swallow. Personally, I was in shock. I knew he was old, but I didn't think he was suffering that much. I know he had back issues, hip issues, knee issues. I know he struggled with painkillers because you're always in pain. And in an interview I just came across today, actually, one of the doctors said, if you had a choice, zero pain in the rest of your life, or one of the greatest championships you can ever earn in your business, which one you pick? And he picked the championship. That's how much he loved the business. That's how much he loved his fans. How much he loved doing what he did. You cannot deny, without Hogan, wrestling would not be what it is today. He was the one that rocket rocket launched it to the next level. Can we agree on that tonight, David?
I, with the help of Vince McMahon, you not the linchpin for that. Yeah,
I still think if it wasn't Hogan in that spot, he wouldn't be. as big as it is today. Now, Teddy Biasi, aka Mr. Mr. Million Dollar Man, said in an
Hmm.
interview just the day he passed. Not interview. He did a video saying how much how much uh, uh, he's gonna miss his friend, yada yada. But a lot of things people don't know about their relationship is when he had his first debut match as Hulk Hogan. Vince Sr. said to him, "I want you to put him over because we have high hopes for this young man," and he did. Years later, they saw each other again. He's signed back with WWE, WWF at the time. It was still this still was a little bit territorial, but not as much. WWE was taking over
Hmm.
in vengeance at this point. So Hogan saw him. Hogan went up to him, shook his hand, gave him a big hug. He goes, "It's payback time," meaning he was gonna return the favor. Makes sense.
Hmm.
So he even said, man said, can't pronounce the name. It's a tongue twister for me. Mr. Milan Tebiasi said, if it wasn't for Hogan returning the favor and putting him over, his career probably wouldn't be as big. Ric Flair even said it in tears. Was a I can't remember what media was it. But they had such a good chemistry, those two in the ring. It was
Hmm.
insane how good they were. Hogan is one of the top three longest reigns. Yes, he's an asshole. He was an asshole for business. Let's be honest. But you have to be an asshole in business to make money. Yes, he blackmailed Jesse Ventura for the belt. I mean, for the union. Can't deny that. He did not want to lose the belt. Because think about it. Those guys who have the belt make the most money when they hold the belt. When they don't hold the belt, it's different. Guaranteed is different than versus when you actually make at pay-per-views and stuff like that. Two different things. There's a lot of things he said like Elvis was, a fan of his, but Elvis was passed. Thanks to Mariana TMZ did the interview, but he was bigger than life. That was the point of the character. That's why he was known as Incredible later on, Hulk Hogan. Then he turned into Hollywood Hulk Hogan in WCW.
Hmm.
One thing I would say, as much as a fan I was a Hulkamania to die end. Before we move on, Mariana, a link is in the chat. I also sent it to you. If you'd like to join this conversation, you're more than welcome to. But when it came down to his acting, oh, that was not good. His acting was not good. I hate to talk bad about that person, but his acting wasn't that good. Let's be honest here. What do you think?
That's not new. Sorry to say.
No, I remember watching. As a kid, I thought it was cool because he was my idol. He was my hero. Thunder in Paradise. Remember that show he used to do?
I watched a few episodes of that show, and I was trying to figure out when are they going to do Candace, because I hate to say it, but it was looking real bad.
So they did 3 movies. Then they launched it to a TV series. It was a TV movie. But what he also did, not only he brought himself to a bigger screen, bigger audience, he brought more wrestlers to try and open the Butcher was on there, and some other guys. If you watch
Hmm.
the first Thunder in Paradise movie, a lot of the actors are in there, and they're like some are his friends, some are his rivals. It was just the Giant was in there. It was one of the bad guys. So he did great as an
As
a
a
businessman.
wrestler,
Great. I mean, a businessman. He made money, bro. You can't deny that. You can't deny the truth.
I get that part.
Yeah, he was the relation with him and Andre the Giant had was unique. And I bet you the relationship, if they didn't have the same relationship they had, he would never let him body slam him. What do you think?
Well, I believe that is true because there was some rivalry in the wrestling business whereby there were certain people they didn't get along very well at all.
Who,
But
Andre?
not on the in the wrestling business up to date, there's a few mention of certain people who would naturally hate each other, but they make sure to have a 5-star match regardless.
Oh yeah, I'm not denying that one bit. Like,
So
I'll create a great example. Ultimate Warrior and him did not like each other one bit. But when it was time to drop the belt, was right time to give him the belt. It was the right time for business and make money for both ends. That's why he did it.
mhm.
And then later he earned it back. But he also got payback in that back in WCW. Is I'm not done with this shit. I'm running the show now because he had created the rights back then.
That is facts. That's always been the case when it comes to wrestling business. If you don't understand the business, it's not meant for you to be in it.
I agree with you
That
because
I would say.
I remember watching a interview with the Rock, and at the time, Stone Cold was the high paying wrestler, and he goes, they're probably in regards to his contract. He goes, out of curiosity, who's the high paying wrestler? He goes, oh, is Stone Cold. What is it? I think he said like it was 2 million guaranteed a year plus whatever pay per views and all that stuff on top of that.
Hmm.
And he said, I want four. Vince said, okay, do me a favor, go run the business first and come back, and we're gonna finish the organization. He went out,
Hmm.
and he thought it'd be like a couple months, less than a month. He came back. It was, I want a match with Stone Cold. He realized how much. He goes, because you learned the business correctly. He guaranteed him 5 mil that year. So, as much as you want to say, if you did not know the business, you can talk all the shit you want. Oh, he's an asshole. Yeah, you could be an asshole, but it's a business. That's what people forget. End of the day, these wrestlers put their bodies and lives on the line because of a wrestler. Look at Warren Hart, for example. Yeah, it was tragic what happened to him. It was a faulty harness, but a key word, they put the life and body on the line. Can you deny any of this?
I'm not denying that at all. I'm not.
So here's a question I got for you: were you a Hulkamania, or were you like neutral, or hated him as a wrestler?
I was neutral. I didn't hate him as a wrestler. I have my selection of wrestlers who I really cater to, which I'm
Hmm.
not gonna lie. Jesse Ventura is one of my favorite.
Really, I wasn't really a fan of him, to be honest with you.
His mic game was ridiculous, but him and one other guy, then I forgot his name. He was another guy that had braid, and he was a natural. I was like, I like that kind of wrestler.
The Bulldog,
No, it wasn't
the first
Bulldog.
Bulldog.
It was someone before Jesse. He had the same kind of build. Forgot his name. She was that, and there was Rocky. The Rock Father was my favorite at that time also. Coco Beware was my favorite. The Junkyard Dog was my favorite. The British Bulldog was my favorite.
Hmm.
Um, Eddie Guerrero was another classic favorite. Sid Vicious was my favorite. Um, I have a good collection of wrestlers who I really love their work. They're very organic to me.
All right, before we move on, let's welcome Mariana to the panel.
Hello.
What's going on, Mariana? How
Hey,
are you
how you
tonight?
doing?
I'm doing all right, guys. Still can't process. Um, since I find out Hulk Hogan passed away from, I heard it from a coworker. Then I had to check on my phone to see it for myself. If it's real, because it's hard to process. It's something that, because as a child, I'm an '80s child. I grew up watching Hulk Hogan. I grew up watching, with my siblings, with my mother, uh, on a typical Saturday, WWF. We watch it. I mean, I remember the stuff that I see from when he fought against with so many different wrestlers from Ultimate Warrior, Rowdy Piper. I mean, like it was so much. Like I'm going back in time. Like I can't even process. It's like I thought in my mind as when I was a child, I thought he's gonna live a long time, but unfortunately, it didn't happen. Um, Hulk Hogan, he's like the American icon. Without him, I don't think where is it today with wrestling. I mean, he was such a big star, like from everywhere, from wrestling. I know movies were not that great. I'm not gonna deny that. It was so and so. Um, he's also was an action figure. He was also appear in. I don't know if they're ever gonna bring it back. I miss those ice cream bars they used to have. Those
Oh, I know what you're talking about.
yeah,
They were classic. I used to love getting those back as a kid and like getting the
yeah,
little sticker in the back of the bot. You
yep,
just stuff like that.
CM Punk asked for that to come back. They never did.
yeah. That
You know what it is?
is yeah,
I think they didn't come back. I'm sorry, Mariana. The reason I think he's not coming back because ice cream truck are not as a big thing anymore as much. Like every
yeah,
town had an ice cream truck. Now it's maybe
No,
New York.
it's not about it was a big thing. It's still a big thing in New York City, but in stadiums, they still sell
yeah,
ice cream in many form and fashion. That was no excuse. So
yeah.
there was always a market for it. It depends where you buy your ice cream at.
Bro, they had what's it called it my favorite ice cream is discontinued. I'm so pissed about it is the chocolate taco, and that was like
Oh my God. Yeah, it's the Klondike chocolate taco. I remember those. Yeah,
yeah.
But the issue with it that the company that made the ice cream for them, they were not in business no more.
That makes
So
sense.
find another company. Yeah, everything is like about logistics. You in the food business, so you should understand that when certain companies are no longer existing anymore that do such
yeah,
business with some big conglomerate, it kind of like who are you gonna take up or who are you gonna reach out to do such business again? And not many people willing to go into that business because they look at the demographic, look at the money, look at the manufacturing, the process. They're not ready for all that again. So the company's like
yeah.
saying that was a far gone era. It's not gonna come back again.
It's kind of yeah, because that was such a big seller. I remember when I was a kid in the '90s. It was such a big thing. I mean, they had from different uh at the time was WWF stars from like Undertaker, Hulk Hogan, Ultimate Warrior. I didn't want to have this ice cream. I remember I had Papa Shango on the ice cream bar, the ice cream side. I say to my mom, "Here, you take it." I say it probably has some voodoo magic on it. I got so freaked out as a kid. Um,
But
yeah, it
think
was
about it.
such
The
a
flavors
yeah,
had to match
yeah,
with the wrestler.
yeah,
So what kind of flavor you gonna put in today's wrestler? In these ice cream? Let that sink
yeah,
in.
Banana was a big thing back then too, if you remember banana flavor. And
yeah,
I'm not a big banana flavor fan. But let me ask you guys a question. As kids, how many shirts did you guys ripped? I know not much you, Mario, but your brother
yeah.
probably. How many
Oh,
shirts you ripped,
he, yeah,
David?
he did. My brother did a couple times, so it's so easy. But yeah, just as I say, we grew up it. My even when my brother was turning 1 years old, my father made a Hulk Hogan cake for his birthday when he was a little baby, like turning one. We even had Hulk Hogan onesies. I mean, come on, we were like how
I
you say
had a
we're
Hulk
such.
Hogan sleeping bag.
You had it?
Yeah, I had a Hulk Hogan sleeping. My mom has it somewhere. And remember those big? They weren't posters, but they were like posters,
Yeah,
like a sheet almost. That it was the your favorite wrestler you're hanging out back in
mm-hmm,
the 80s and 90s. I had two
yeah.
of those. I had the Ultimate Warrior and Hogan.
Oh
Those were my
wow,
guys, man. And they were like, I'm like, I used to go ape shit for Hogan more than Ultimate Warrior because again, he was the American icon at the time. You know,
yeah,
you prayed every night, you took your vitamins,
mm-hmm,
you exercised, you did everything you needed to do. That's when he turned heel. I was in Greece when he turned heel. When I came back to visit my parents, like NWO, what the fuck is NWO? I was like questioning myself. I didn't know all this shit. And
yeah,
and no, I'm sorry, I'm lying to you guys. When I moved back to a country, he just already turned heel the first time. It was like NWO, the beer, like kind of threw me off at WCW. And like it took me a while to catch up. But when I
mm-hmm,
catch up, like I don't know how I felt, but it was like a sour taste in my mouth almost. Like, but it made sense.
Yeah.
because the same thing with John Cena. Eventually, every good guy needs to turn heel at some point in their career.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
John Cena is a whole different ball game. He had been fighting that, so for him to come back, it was more logical for him to turn heel, but do it in a way, in a fashion that, how you want to put it, everybody will have to be feeling the impact of it on a negative way. And he said behind closed door, it's hard for him not to stay in the heel because looking at Kid's face, you a guy who doing it for Kid, and you the biggest make a wish leader of all time, and you're told to be a villain. You want to see how hard that is? Because this other villain that got, look at you. Roman Reigns not a good guy, not a bad guy. He the guy, and he get a lot of love. Stone Cold, another one too. He get a lot of love. John
Stone
Cena
Cold
did
is
not get
unique. Is
no
very unique because
no
he's
Stone
the
Cold.
one
Yes,
because
yes, he's unique.
he's the one that we all want to kick our boss in the balls, stun him, give him the finger, and give him fuck himself, and come back to work the next day.
We get that. We totally get that. That's the thing. But here the problem. Even though Stone Cold, Roman Reigns, and a few other characters just that way, John Cena was the one that more like how you want to put it, like Randy Couture, aka Captain America. That was the category that John Cena put himself in by in WWE. He was a Captain America version in WWE. Yes, he was a villain first before he came the babyface. That's how he first started. He started at a heel. He was rapping worldwide, but he was more not so much relatable to the kid. He was more related to those who going through the hip hop era.
But funny thing about John Cena's career, it was a little unique because they were about to cut him actually because he was not doing well. He wasn't cutting it, and they were on a bus, and he was just freestyling in the back. And Stephanie McMahon heard him. He goes, "You should do that in the ring next time you go out." And that will save his career by rapping.
Mm.
I'm sorry, David.
I'm sure you're correct about that.
So with Hogan, man, it wasn't anything his face wasn't on at one point. Think about it. Ice cream bars, freaking toys, action figures,
Mhm.
vitamins.
Mhm.
Name one thing his face wasn't on. It was everywhere.
Yeah.
You couldn't not you couldn't. I don't care who you were. If you're not even a wrestling fan, you knew who Hulk Hogan was. That's how iconic this guy was.
Mhm.
That's very, very true.
Even in
Very.
cartoons. Mhm.
Yeah.
So, um,
It's a good point. Let's see. Pro Wrestling Illustrated had small photo of pro wrestler featured in their monthly magazine with bios and title history on the back. I remember that part too.
So
I'm not
Hogan
gonna
had
lie.
several different names too before he became Hulk Hogan. It was Teddy Gene Belair was his original name, or he was born with.
mhm.
Super Destroyer, Steeler Gold. Then he turned to the Hulk Hogan later on in his career. So he had a different name change over the years. And that makes sense. And a lot of wrestlers do that too. And like a lot of them had different names before they become big.
Yeah.
And that's completely understandable. Um, but he's also one of the first wrestlers to actually get a role on a major movie.
Yeah.
Because it's funny because at the time it was still senior running the company. So the story is, again, I'm paraphrasing a little bit. He gets a letter saying, "Oh, Stallone wants to talk to you about a role." Yeah, they're playing pranks on him. They threw it away. I'm like, whatever. The guys are fucking with him. A couple weeks later, another one. And when he got in a couple weeks later, same thing. He goes, "All right, I'm gonna finally call this number because I'm tired of hearing these notes." When he called and it was actually Stallone on the other line, he was like, kind of shit in his pants, like, oh, okay, I kind of fucked up here.
Mm,
And when he actually got the role and he met him, and he goes to Senior, I'm gonna do this movie. He goes, you're not doing this movie, you're rushing under me. He goes, well, I'm doing this movie, then you can just fire me. And that's how they had the big falling out. Then when Junior came, took over the company, he brought him back. And that, it blew him up to this icon it is now.
mm. Makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, Hogan had an interesting career because he was up and down and all over the place because he knew the business. He knew he had to keep reinventing the wheel with his character, and that's what he did. So when he first left when he left originally in the 90s, I believe, was it
Mm,
WWF at the time,
mm-hmm.
he went to um acting for A Thunder in Paradise, and that's where he met Eric Bischoff. And when he met Eric Bischoff, they're trying to convince him, hey, come on this side. WCW is a better company, there's more money. He goes, I'm kind of done with wrestling at this point. But the wrestling bug was still in him. And where he was shooting Thunder in Paradise, further down was right there. So he walked over there and he starts seeing him, like, they start talking, and that's where he got his contract. Guaranteed money and guaranteed control. And that's
Mm-hmm.
part where NW start inventing, because it's like, how about we bring you in as a bad guy? And the wheels start turning. But the only problem with that, when you have too much creative control, he's a good businessman, but a horrible writer. What do you guys say about that?
I will say, yeah, he was a good businessman. I mean, he marketed himself very well, but it kind of it's mind bottled right now. Like you feel like for so many years he accomplished. I mean,
Hmm.
he was always on top of his career, no matter what. And of course, like thinking back, it's like, what if it didn't exist? You can't imagine. Like a lot of this stuff that he accomplished with all, from these career highlights from, going from WWF, and then what was the next one? It was WCW. I
Correct.
mean, yeah, it just and I remember I thought he would retire, but then he went back. It's like it's something in him that he's still a wrestler. That's his calling. And
It's funny you said that, Mariana, because when he came back to WWF, so at the time,
yeah.
and he came back, and The Rock came out and challenged him to the most iconic match in history,
Hmm.
to me at least. That was my favorite WrestleMania to this day. I still think is one of the best WrestleMania ever. Rock versus Hogan. Before we talk about that, David, go ahead. What do you think about my original question?
Repeat it.
My question was, do you think he had way too much creative control at one point when he was in WCW?
Want me to be blunt?
Go ahead.
It's not that he had too much creative control. He's one of the main reasons why WCW ended up failing. Not just him
I'm
alone.
disagreeing one bit on that.
Big Show was part of it too as well. There was a problem that's going on a lot, and it's something I always pay attention to in any promotion. If you are wrestling from one promotion, jump to another promotion, and you're giving way too much creative control, that put a bad taste in every wrestler who helped build that promotion and you were not a part of it to begin with. The same thing happened when he came over to TNA and he almost sank that ship as well with Eric Bischoff.
And not he almost did. He actually did. And this new and somebody bought it out, and now they're coming back with vengeance.
Yeah. So technically, he sank him and Victor sank two ships.
You can't give him completely blame on that. Dixon Carter, also who ran the company, ran
Hmm.
the company down the ground because she did not know the business at all.
She didn't know what to do with it. I know, I get it, but she had help, and they came in and banged their two fat ass in there and sank that ship too. Let's be honest. Every major wrestling promotion that was paying attention to that, they saw that. So you think Hogan was working to other promotion? New Japan Pro Wrestling. How will you think Hogan out there?
He wrestled down there.
He wrestled, but not much.
Actually, he
Um,
wrestled a good amount, believe it or not.
now to check. Oh yeah, I see that. Thank you. He did. Oh, he did wrestle for the Activity Wrestling Championship back now. You're correct. But Kurt Angle, Brock Lesnar, the Dudley Boy, a few other names, they were becoming popular. Yeah, he did wrestle. I forgot about that part. But you're not gonna give him credit control just to do what he did to other promotion. That's the issue. So Beth Lee, what Hogan did made it very well known. No wrestler should not have that much level of control in any promotion. Which is kind of ironic. They did this clause in AEW to remove the EVP title from the Young Bucks. They were going to their head. So they're like, okay, let's give it out of them. Because since the founding brothers are no longer there, which is Cody Rhodes no longer there. Um, Kenny Omega is sick again with injuries. So there's no point in having Young Buck have EVP, so let's give it is what it is.
So Hogan, I just looked it up. So Hogan in New Japan, he won the IWGP Legend Tournament in 1983.
Hmm.
In 19 the MGS Tag Legend he won. 93 he won the wrestling double dunkon in New Japan. I'm butchering his name. Those are only a few they mentioning honor mentionings of titles he won in New Japan. He was there multiple times over career, his younger career, not when he was a little older. So the only company he didn't wrestle was TNA. I'm not mistaken, right?
TNA, Ring of Honor, Triple A, what else? TNA with the question mark of it own before it went to Impact. They went back to TNA again. And this is why it's good to say if you don't know much about the business, you cannot run it. And I'm seeing Tony Khan in now learning the hard lesson. Like, dude,
He's an
let
idiot.
let the people who've been in the business longer than you explain to you how to get it done. Yes, you could be a here's the problem. You could be a fan of the business all you want. And when you're not part of it, it's like saying someone telling me about IT, but never worked in the business. But only me and Paul Bennett are the very few on this panel who've been in the business. We will tell you this is exactly what it is. And you want to tell her, oh, this is how no, it don't work that way. Like me telling you how your business works by having been in your business long enough to understand the business.
So
Yeah,
I'm gonna look that up right now to make sure. I believe Wally's usually on point on this.
he did wrestle in TNA. He did wrestle for a few times. But that was the point where he did with Bubba Ray. He was forced to wrestle Bubba Ray because of how you want to say it. If you don't wrestle me, I take your daughter. Stipulation. So this song coincidental that somebody take a script and trying to twist around that's already done in WWF slash E involving somebody else's daughter. Really? Come on.
While he's correct, he was in TNA because he ran it for a while.
He did.
AEW, he never wrestled for.
He never had to say AEW. Because AEW was not existing. I'm talking about Ring of Honor, it still existed. I think the Ring of Honor was more like the training school for true professionals. Because remember, Vince McMahon was going to sport entertainment.
And then after ECW crashed too, because he used to recruit a lot of people from ECW. There's a contract
Oh,
with Paul Heyman.
he did ECW dirty because ECW was the extreme version. And remember, we had different versions of wrestling. You had the pro wrestling, which is Ring of Honor. We had extreme, which is ECW. And you had sport entertainment, which is WWF, known as WWE. Sport entertainment. Remember, Chris Jericho was in a conflict because he came from WWE with professional wrestling. And he was trying to move into the sport entertainment. When he went to AEW, they were crapping on him. Talk about this is pro wrestling. This is not sport entertainment. You can drop that BS, but it's more like they were either trolling WWE with the sport entertainment nonsense because they too are forced to change their mindset from sport entertainment to pro wrestling. Yes, Wally, they were low tier to begin at one point, but even though they was low tier, they were more on the professional side of wrestling, not entertainment side of wrestling.
Yeah, no, I'm not arguing neither what you guys say. Both are correct. But what I am going to say is Hogan main evented the first 9 WrestleManias.
Mm-hmm.
The first couple Saturday main events.
Mm-hmm.
Won Royal Rumble 2 times,
Mm-hmm.
90 and 91. He hold his longest reign of the championship was 1,474 days. That's why he's second place of the longest reigning. Roman Reigns is first place, but Hogan was, but he got knocked down because of Roman Reigns had these ridiculous reigns, and that was to me it was just
4 years straight.
I think that was too much personally, but it's my opinion.
That was set up on purpose because you know why? A certain family infiltrated the business. They had leverage.
Yeah. In WCW, he had the World Championship several times.
Mm-hmm.
Because I was creative control.
Mm-hmm.
Then it turned into the NWO title. We know that because he was a
Mm-hmm.
big part of Monday Night Raws. Then he returned to WWF in 2002. That he faced The Rock. Then he got the championship, and he won against the Triple H.
Mm-hmm.
He was inducted in the Hall of Fame in 2005.
Mm-hmm.
Where is it? Then he went back to New Japan for a little bit. He also did a Super Sunday. I don't remember that for some reason. Then he also worked with IWGP Heavyweight Championship. That one I'm not familiar. Then he went to TNA Total Impact at the time. It was called still. Where is it? He also played in Rocky 2 in 82. Then he did. This is one movie actually I thought was really good of his. No Holds Bar, because he played it himself pretty much as a wrestler.
Again, the actor named Zeus.
I'm sorry.
He played an actor who called himself Zeus. He wasn't a real wrestler, but he was more of an actor than a wrestler.
I think Zeus was the bad guy. I'm gonna look that up in 1 second. Let me finish the list here.
The actor character was Zeus. I think that was the character. He had a haircut D, and it looked like he was elected for the black actor.
No, the black actor was the guy you're talking about. V.
Yeah.
You got it backwards. I'm telling you right now. I'm looking at the cast.
Okay.
Zeus was played by Tommy Listener Jr.
Bingo. That's the guy I'm referring to. That was the.
Yeah. I thought you were talking about Hogan. I apologize.
No, Hogan was no Zeus. He don't look like a Zeus. Hello.
Well, he did play Zeus at one point later on in his career.
Where?
I'm gonna tell you 1 second. Let me finish the list here. The Mr. Nanny he played in. He did Hogan's No Best, Thunder in Paradise. Yeah, there you go. That's he played Zeus, and let me get the Hogan's career up really fast. Movies. I know he played.
Not Zeus.
He did play just like that's the last movie he made. Oh, I know I saw some right here. Just give me a second to find it. I know it's in here. Okay, guys, continue until I find this. Go ahead. You were saying, David?
Besides the acting, everything, the thing about wrestling is creative control. I think that's what every promoter is being careful of right now. Because you don't know what a wrestler will do to that promotion. ECW is gone. It's never coming back. TNA
I bring it
survived
back a
coming
couple
back.
times, but it failed.
What are going to come? No, trust me. When I tell you what they're going to come back, they're going to come back.
Oh, here it is. Little Hercules. It's called. In '09, he plays Zeus.
Okay.
It was a flop.
Won't be surprised.
It wasn't
Um,
because of Hogan. It was just a bad movie in general.
TNA survived because they got bought out by the company. Ring of Honor only died out due to money management issue. They were losing TV deal. Tony Khan knew that out of big business that never let go out of the right promotion to keep up, and that's another thing.
I think
Um,
AEW is going to be the next one on the memory list.
it depends if somebody don't turn it around. One wrestling promotion I would bring it back was Lucha Underground. I like the format.
I
Lucha
also didn't
Underground,
like
Lucha Underground give a lot of wrestlers the potential to show something completely different.
they just bought a new Mexican company during WrestleMania.
Triple
Don't
A,
remember. I'm sorry.
Triple A.
Thank you, Triple A, and that's supposed to be replacing Lucha Underground. Because they're going to be working with them very tightly.
No, let me put it this: Lucha Underground was done. Was never the same as Triple A. Triple A was still existing when they had Lucha Underground. Lucha Underground format is a completely different ballgame of itself. Even Ray Mysterio knows it because there's a lot of wrestlers who are part of that. Ray was a part of that. Ricochet was a part of it. Brian K was a part of it. Who's Howard? Swerve Howard was a part of that, but he was Kill Shot. That was his name. There's a lot of wrestlers who was in the indie who partake in Lucha Underground. Yeah, Lucha Underground is now LW. Yeah, in a way, you're correct, Wally. They try to keep that same format, but the thing that the storytelling that had on Lucha Underground was very, very unique and it was very iconic in a way. It's almost like a TV series soap opera kind of thing. They were making them plot here and there, but towards the end of it, it kind of like the weird direction they would take it was not adding up. Thank you, Wally. That's my fact checker.
I never say it did. I said I think it is. I think that's
That's
the point of it.
well, Wally's my new wrestling fact checker. While he's now on the stage, he's fact checking you. How about that? Don't start. Don't start. Don't start. You saw your finger.
You've reached your limit on talking. Shut the fuck up.
Form blazing middle finger. You watching you. You watching you. Okay. I might have to bring another person to the team who do extra fact checking. Whenever you slip, they'll be in the chat room.
Well, JT's been an MI for all social media right now, so
Don't worry.
he's my guy usually. You know that.
Yeah, I know he's your guy. And Wally is
I
my
actually
guy.
invited Mark back on the show tonight, but he's babysitting his new young son right now, so he couldn't go on because his wife is working tonight.
I know.
But he actually met Hogan personally, and when he used to be Mark used to be my neighbor, like I said, actually that way. He lived about 2 apartments down. But the funny thing, he texted me a picture about 2 years ago when he first moved up there to Florida,
Mhm.
and he lived about a mile away from Hogan's house. So Hogan's always walking up up and down the beach and everything. So, and he has a picture of his daughter and everything. All right, guys, let's welcome Wally to the panel. Wally, what's going on, my man?
In every fiber of my body, I was not even supposed to be on this show. But for the lackluster of things that I've heard, I just had to like, oh Lord, okay, fine. Triggerings. Oh Lord, look. Never get I'll never get over it. Look, understand this pretty well. AAA will never become Lucha Underground, never in existence. Never.
Why do you think that?
Have you watched Lucha Underground?
No, I haven't. I'll be honest.
Well, then then right then and there should be your pro quo of why you shouldn't even bother to say AAA is going to replace Lucha Underground when you haven't even watched it. There's a reason why I say this, a heavy reason why I say this. Interesting to see Hogan in the World Class Championship Wrestling ahead of
WCTW.
And go ahead, Wally. What were you saying?
Oh yeah, no. AAA is never going to replace Lucha Underground. It's just not going to happen.
Okay, I'll take your word for it. Let me ask you a question.
I mean, well, no. If you're going to talk about for what reasons, I mean, clear reasons. One, I mean, granted, Lucha Underground was not that heavy in the wrestling. Like, it didn't have a lot of heavy wrestlers, but at the same time, though, didn't really need to. I mean, granted, because it was also still like collaborating with outsource and all that. But even then, it was, well, again, AAA, it is very small in particular. I'm surprised that the fact that it's even a wrestling corporation, because it has nobody. And by the sense of nobody, I mean, it's just small as fuck.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas Lucha Underground, they actually had some decent bodies towards the beginning route and then constantly keep collecting on bodies as time grew. Plus, then at the same time, you can just tell just by the sentiments of it, they really were driving a sentiment where they were actually pushing the actual lucha in the underground, because they really pushed on the Aztec, factor point on the whole lucha side of it all. So some of these wrestlers that you already know that are in the other wrestling corporations that were under mask, they were emulating these Aztec warriors out here.
Io Sky was also one of them who was also part of the Lucha Underground. Nobody noticed about that.
The former wrestler, WWE wrestler, L something, I can't remember his name. He used to date Paige back in the day. He was wrestling under there for a while.
You talking about Alberto Del Rio? Yeah, he came later. Yeah, he came later. But yeah, for the most part, like, because literally Lucha Underground is literally the originating part where pretty much who was the wrestler you mentioned right now that's in AEW? What's the dude name? You just said his name earlier. Ricochet. There you go. Because he was Prince Puma.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, was he? I didn't know that.
Yes, he was the man. He was Prince Puma. He had that on.
You know what? I can see that. His style of wrestling is, like luchador, like high flying, jumping through. He has a very high flying.
Ricochet is the most decorated indie wrestler of all time. He has a lot of belts. He works on a lot of promotions. So Ricochet is one of them. Another one is he was a part of the M&M group, but he keeps changing his name in every promotion. I forgot his name. You know who I'm referring to, right? He's good at wrestling, and the wrestling's good in AEW.
M&M. You're not talking about well, I'm remember him for his old name, but Johnny Nitro.
Yeah, Johnny Nitro.
Okay, yeah, but he came later too. He wasn't he came. I won't say later, but mid tier he came in.
Him and his wife was in that wrestling promotion as well, and he was supposed to be the champion for a good while, but there was a back and forth thing going on.
Yeah,
so there's a lot of
question now. Like, were you a fan of Hogan, neutral, or you disliked him when he was wrestling?
You asking me?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So, okay, well, was I a fan, neutral, or for the overall career? I mean, I say this: my overall perspective of Hogan fluctuated based upon this time. So at one point I was a fan. Later on, it was just, well, you just know how to ruin yourself as a person, literally.
Yeah, he went
So,
spiral.
huh?
He went down his dark spiral at one point.
Sure, you can say that. Yeah, but overall, as a person, I mean, like, okay, I always say this. As far as wrestling goes, it is what it is. As far as a person, yeah, let me just say this bluntly because I'm already here. Good fucking riddance. you fat piece of shit. Just good fucking riddance. Sorry, but it comes out to say. Okay. I'll say it again.
Yeah, I wouldn't care if he was alive, but because he is passed.
I did warn you about that, didn't I?
What?
Hulk Hogan rubbed the black community the wrong way. So there's a lot of
Oh
black
no,
people
I
that
wasn't.
want
Well,
to-
that's not even just like black community wise. Like, I'm not gonna harp on that, but just in general, like just who he is. Like, again, as a wrestler, it is what it is. But as a person, good fucking riddance. In general, like I don't care. Like, I'm not gonna press that, but just in general, just good fucking riddance. You deserve the shit that you get.
I personally disagree because at the end of the day, he is a human being and he had a family and everything. So you really don't know what demons he was fighting because we only know a little bit. I mean, maybe 1 to 5% tops out of 100. And like everybody has demons. Well, you know that very well, like I do.
We all have demons, but what demons force you, what demons tends to put you over to just say things that are literally inhuman. I'm gonna say it again. If that's the case, should we give Hitler a pass because we don't know the demons he was facing? I mean, I'm just gonna be a dick about it and say that just on a conveyor belt, knowing the shit that he did. I'm just saying, like, granted,
But Hogan didn't kill anybody.
I know that, but again, we're talking about demons. It don't matter if you didn't kill no one. You saying
matter.
things, doing things, physically doing things, non-physical. Hey, demons are demons. Everyone got them, right? Some may take it to the extreme. Some may take it to just words. I'm just saying. But nonetheless, granted, again, I'm not sitting here saying like anyone don't have demons, but again, it still goes to the end of the day. What demons could you possibly dealing with to the point that you had to say things that you had to say? No. Again, anyone can be dealing with demons, but for you to say certain things that you had to say, nah. In life, no. That just without anything to back it up, you're just a little bit out of pocket.
Again, at that point, like I mentioned earlier at the beginning of the show, he was fighting. He was addicted to painkillers. He was going through a very nasty divorce. He was alcoholic. He was going through stuff, dude. And like, I know I've been through shit, and I say things I don't mean sometimes.
Yeah. I love when I hear the bravado. I say things I don't mean sometimes. Let's
true.
be real. I mean, granted, hey, people can say that, but I'm gonna be honest with you. I'm sorry, but for those that say that, like, oh, I say things I don't mean sometimes. Usually, when I hear that, when that pops up neither by the simple fact of you neither drinking or some other stuff that's influenced you to say things. It's like, again, sometimes the things that you don't say that pops out, usually things that you are thinking of saying, but you just don't because it'll be insensitive or out of pocket. So again, sometimes that I don't even bypass that because, hey, I'll say it like this: there's certain people that will drink, they won't say nothing crazy out their ass. It's just them. And then there's some people that will say things that you didn't expect them to say, but you know what? But then they'll come back and be like, "Oh, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to say that. I'll just drunk." No, there's something deep within you for you to say that. There's something deep that had that to say that. Like, you had that for a reason.
So you said to me just now, and like he said things that were inappropriate, correct?
I mean, for his life, for his own self, yeah.
Give me an example what things he said that you feel is inappropriate.
Well, okay, now, granted, If I'm not gonna remember every word for word verbatim, but
You don't have to. I'm not saying this to
no,
quote.
but I'm just saying, like, just in general, like, I'm just saying, when I'm saying the things that he said that ruined him, I'm not saying like, now, granted, do I ultimately remember the words and all this? No, because I don't really focus on him like that. In it, like, again, this is what I'm saying. In general, that's just good riddance. But like, I'm not saying like, oh, F him, go rot in hell. Like, no, I'm just saying good riddance. Like, hey, passed on. That's is what it is. But I mean, like I said, not harping on it as far as a stance on race because of what he said on that part, but it's just as far as just who he's general, like as a person general, like, hey, good riddance.
Oh, you referring to his business side or a personal side?
As a person, just in general, as a person.
Like I said, he was going through a lot of stuff at a time. So if you see in later years, like towards the end of his life, he was completely different. But before I move on, Mariana, you look like you have something to say. Go ahead.
Me, no, I have nothing to say. I'm just absorbing. I don't have nothing to say.
All right.
Just yeah, I'm gonna give my own input. Okay. The last thing I need, this is the last thing, everybody could be at the end of the day, everybody's gonna go through a struggle, but who's here to judge? Like, I will say God is the only one, if anyone believes in God, gives the final judge of the person, because if anytime we judge, we're gonna get judged back, no matter who it is. I don't care if it could be a regular person or a celebrity, whatever the case is. But at the end of the day, everybody's gonna go through a struggle in their life. Your life could go to the top and then spiral all the way to the bottom. So, nobody's perfect. I will say, everybody's gonna go through something. It doesn't matter, because, at the end of the day, he was a human being. He had a family. Of course, his life is, he did a turnaround the last 2 years before he passed away. He, he devoted his life to God. He got married. I know he got married 3 times, but not everybody's perfect. But at least he basically trying to get out, because he want to make sure that he basically trying to know that he's with God, because he want to, like, not everybody wants to be um in the dark path, whatever you call it. So, but still, like, everybody's gonna go through something. Not everybody's gonna be perfect. Um, so just I know that he lived. I don't know. He had a crazy life. I will say he didn't have a day, like, he was constantly always on the go. He was always constantly working. So it wasn't easy for him either. Sometimes, when you overwork yourself, you're gonna say things without thinking. And then sometimes, I don't know. I don't know how to explain it, because I see that when somebody gets overwork, getting to that extreme, you're gonna say things without thinking because you're so exhausted. So, but it just right now, like, you lost a icon. Just like right now, like, it's crazy. All these wrestlers past. I mean, those who were fighting the ring, they all, like, it's crazy. They all, like, worked together at the time, like Ultimate Warrior, Hulk Hogan, Macho Man, Randy Savage. I mean, it's crazy. Like, and then it seems like, damn, all this is my childhood that I watched. But yeah, I don't know what else can I say. I mean, the last thing I need is to judge. I don't want to judge anybody, because media always portray something negative, no matter what. Because the media is known for that. That's why I'm not a big fan of um media, because media say this, media say that, because it's always one-sided, and this what that annoys me. Um so yeah,
I
it
totally
just
agree.
makes, yeah. So that's all I can say.
Hmm. David, you got anything on this?
Mm, how would I say this? Yes, he was the icon. He broke a lot of barrier for a lot of people. He expanded the business to what it is with the help of Vincent, man. I would say if it wasn't for The Rock and his high level ended to understand what needed to be done that moment at that time, he would not have gone even further than what it did. The Rock helped him in. Rock was supposed to be the baby face and he was supposed to be the heel. But
Oh, during
understanding how,
WrestleMania 16.
yeah, understanding how the crowd would change, The Rock understood very well what he's supposed to do. He told Hogan right then and there, "You're gonna be the baby face now. I have to be the heel because it's not gonna work where we planned it before." And he walking through the process to the point whereby even Hogan said to himself, "If it wasn't for The Rock, who knows what would have happened?"
Oh yeah, those two had great chemistry in the ring together. You gotta give them credit on that. The first and the only time they, had a match together, their chemistry was beyond great. I personally think it's one of the best WrestleMania matches I ever seen. I haven't seen nothing close. That's a personal opinion. I'm not saying that's a fact. But even they thought it would be reverse actually when going in there, and they had to flip it right middle of the match, like you said, David.
Ho- Hogan said he did not understand what to do. He said that it wasn't for The Rock. He could have messed up. So The Rock told him, "You're flipping right here and there." Even Vince McMahon say The Rock is a genius. He understood. It's like sometimes you got to pay attention to the crowd.
Yeah.
The crowd make the money for you.
Yeah. All right, David, hang on one second. Let's get Paul in here. Ladies and gentlemen, please rise for our president. Mr. President, how are you doing tonight?
I am well. Can you hear me?
Yes, nice and clear.
Cool. Hi, Mariana. Wally.
I'm doing good. Hello.
President.
Hey, hey.
So, Paul, we got on this.
I mean, look, I was quote unquote I was there at the birth of Hulkamania. I remember specifically when I knew wrestling was going in another direction. Sports Illustrated had a picture of Hulk Hogan on the cover. I believe it was from 1983. So either he was just coming out of the AWA or he was just arrived at the WWE. Hey, Eric, shout out to you and happy birthday to a man. Also, salute to him. So yeah, it was big. I remember. Obviously, I'm a big Rocky fan, and I remember watching, Rocky 3, which is my favorite Rocky, by the way, out of the franchise. Rocky 3. Again, his role as Thunder Lips, his Mr. T as Clubber Lang, my favorite Rocky, period. But again, I remember Hulk Hogan when he was in the WWF in 1979. When he had matches with Bob Backlund, who was the champion at the time. So you knew he was obviously a big star. He also had feuds with Tony Atlas around that time, 1979, 1980. Atlas was certainly a burgeoning star within WWF at the time. And then he comes back 3+ years later, 3.5 years later, 1983, late 1983, as Bob Backlund's basically replacement, because Bob Backlund, he's told by Vince Jr., I believe, who's starting to take over from his father at this time. And he basically, now his dad, he was all in on Bob Backlund since 1977. He wanted a sort of an American boy type of image, because he went through a string of ethnic champions. Obviously, Bruno Sammartino ran things for a while, and Pedro Morales also had a brief, but oftentimes not mentioned, run as WWF champion. Then they brought Bruno back for a run through 77. Superstar Billy Graham was a heel champion, which was unheard of at the time because usually heel champions don't hold the title too long. Superstar Billy Graham was supposed to, and this is important because Superstar Billy Graham was supposed to be an interim. He held the belt for over a year, which was unheard of for a heel champion in the WWF era to hold the title that long. But he had so much heat. He was so hot. Sellouts at Madison Square Garden. People started to cheer for him as champion. But certainly he had Vince McMahon Sr. wanted a American boy champion, so he went to Backlund. Now Backlund was even though his mic skills were awful, he was not very good on the mic. Had no charisma, but he was a shooter. He could hurt you bad. He was an amateur wrestling background. He was, he could wrestle, no question about it. So when Graham was told that Backlund's going to be the guy at the height, when nobody expected a heel champion to get that much, not only heat, but also he was starting to get the cheer of the fans. Because a lot of people speculated at the time, if in fact Vince McMahon Sr. decided to stay with superstar Billy Graham and turn him face, there would not be a Hulk Hogan. Because he had a lot of what Hulk Hogan had. In fact, Hulk Hogan himself said that he modeled his whole image with the 24-inch pythons and all that kind of stuff after superstar Billy Graham. The whole thing with Brother, that came from the reflection of perfection, your number one selection. That was all Billy. The rhyming, the flexing, the biceps, the body, which was revolutionary at the time because most professional wrestlers didn't look like superstar Billy Graham. He had a 6-pack abs. He had 20-plus-inch arms. He was a big guy. Didn't have a lot of wrestling ability, though. But on the mic, he had charisma, and people started to cheer for him. So it was Vince McMahon Sr., who said, no, I'm going to Bob Backlund, and that's a whole nother story. Superstar Billy Graham's career was never the same after that. He went through his struggles. Certainly after that, I just watched a documentary on him a while ago. But again, it's superstar Billy Graham who takes the credit for having Terry Bollea or Terry Golden, which we've known have in other promotions, becoming Hulk Hogan. It was him. He took on his style, and he was the man. So when Vince McMahon Jr. started looking to phase out Backlund, because again, Vince had different ideas of what a heavyweight champion should be. He wanted a flamboyant guy. He wanted a big, muscular, imposing guy. And like I said, superstar Billy Graham, after he lost to Backlund, his career went to nothing. He went away for a while. He lost a lot of weight. He came back as this karate superstar Billy Graham with a shaved bald head. It was awful. He just was not in a good place. It could have been superstar, but he went to Hogan. And basically he bet the farm on Hogan. Now, again, the first time Hogan could have been there earlier, but the issue was he went to do Rocky. And Vince McMahon did not want at the time. Vince McMahon Sr. did not understand the relationship between wrestling and entertainment. So he got the call to do the Rocky movie. Vince McMahon Sr. said no. Hulk Hogan bounced and did his thing. We saw how successful Rocky 3 was. Then he became a big star. Hulkamania actually got started in AWA, not the WWF. It was AWA when Hulkamania took off. The T-shirts, the ripping of the T-shirts and all that kind of stuff, it took off in AWA. And Vern Gagne was trying to do everything he could to keep Hulk Hogan there. In fact, he even tried to get him to marry his daughter while he was there as well. But Vern did not understand merchandising because Hulk Hogan he was the one who started printing Hulkamania T-shirts. That was his idea. Vern said no. Or if he was going to do it, Vern wanted like half his profits in the merchandise. Again, that was another reason why Hulk Hogan left AWA and went to the WWF. Because one thing that Vince McMahon Jr. did understand is merchandising and how to sell and entertainment. And so Hulk Hogan checked off a lot of boxes. He had a bigger than life role in Rocky 3. He was a huge hit in AWA where Hulkamania started. And also in AWA at the time, there was another guy who was there who was brought over. In fact, there were a few guys there. The most notable being Mean Gene Okerlund. He was also an AWA guy. So again, so when Vince McMahon Jr. raided the AWA, he took a pile. He also took Jesse the Body Ventura. Now, it's interesting he mentioned Superfly Snuka because he was my guy before Hulk Hogan got there. This is the Jimmy Superfly Snuka who leaped off the top of a steel cage 15 feet in the air on Don Morocco in their steel cage match in Madison Square Garden. It is still considered one of the greatest highlights in WWF wrestling history. He was on top. And he could have been, but again, he had problems. And this is all leading somewhere, so I'm going to wrap this up soon. I'm just kind of painting the narrative because I was there, and I know Eric was there, so he can validate everything that I'm saying. So Hulk Hogan comes in after Bob Backlund's reign. He's there for nearly 5 years as champion from 78 to 83. Iron Sheik beats Bob Backlund. Hulk Hogan comes in and basically wins the belt right away. He's not built up like Bob Backlund in 77. He was built up for like a year before he got that shot against superstar Billy Graham. Hulk Hogan came in with his bag already. You didn't have to make Hulk Hogan the star. He was already a star. He had Rocky 3 and he had AWA, Hulkamania, coming with him. And I go back to that Sports Illustrated cover, which may have been the only time at the time that Sports Illustrated. Now, again, this is at the time, Sports Illustrated was the gold standard of sports journalism. This was maybe the first time they put a professional wrestler on the cover. It was a big deal. And the title of it, look it up, Hulk Hogan, Matt Mania. His face is right, his full face on the cover. Look it up. Look up the title. And you knew things were going to be different. Bobby Heenan also came from there. Jesse Ventura also came from AWA. So again, Vince McMahon Jr. raided the AWA, and the AWA was not the same after that. And part of the reason for that was, again, Vern Gagne, who did not understand truly what he had. He could have possibly took the WWF out of business if he understood truly what he had. But he was an old school territory guy. He did not understand what he had. He did not understand the vision that Vince McMahon Jr. had. And he blew it. And AWA, by 85, AWA was essentially over. I mean, as a major promotion, it was WWF and NWA. AWA was a distant third, and they just kept getting farther and farther back until they just folded. So it's just also an example of, again, you know, timing and understanding what you have and putting that together. But again, Hulk Hogan, you know, certainly was certainly a game changer when it came to how people view professional wrestling. And for a publication like Sports Illustrated to even pay attention to professional wrestling at the time, which everybody even then understood, at least in the Northeast, everybody then understood that it was a bit of a work. It wasn't quote unquote legitimate sports, but nevertheless, though, they started to pay attention. And they said, we better start covering this stuff. So when Hulk Hogan came in and beat the Iron Sheik very shortly, like he wasn't even there a month, he comes in, beats Iron Sheik, and establishes it, himself in WWF the next year. next year and a half, the first WrestleMania, and the rest is history after that.
So, Paul, please correct me if I'm wrong. If I understand correctly, this guy, AWA, had a gold mine in hand, and he literally dropped the ball.
He dropped it.
Yeah.
All this stuff, all of what you saw of Hulk Hogan in 83, 84, and 85 coming in he was doing that in AWA already. And again, in 1982 was when Rocky III came out. So he already had a lot of that flair, a lot of that flamboyance. All that stuff was there. He was on Johnny Carson in 1982, talking about the Rocky film. So again, he was already starting to get well known within the world of professional wrestling. And not only that, but crossover appeal. Yeah, I think he meant AWA there. Kind of fused together at the end. Yeah, that became that USA something. So I forget what they call it.
So, Paul, you're my guy who is always the reasons of any madness on this show. This one being you, doesn't care what show you're on. You always have the reason to behind any madness. So I would say me while disagreeing on something here. I want to see your opinion on it. I said he went through stuff during his life. He drug abuse, alcohol, and so on. Wally says good riddance to his past. What do you say to that? I want to see your opinion because you're the wise man usually in this.
Wait a minute, what the world?
What you said good riddance to him? Didn't you say that before? Yes or no?
No, but look how you're comparing it. You're saying, well, everyone goes through things in life, and then you're saying good riddance. Whoa, what the freak?
Yeah, I said that earlier, didn't I? I'm not.
Well, yes, but in the same context. Well, no, the way how you're setting it up, though, you're setting it up as if that's unbalanced, though. That's what I'm saying. Like, what the freak?
No, I'm not saying like that. I apologize if it comes off like that. I feel like you saying him good riddance is a little bit inappropriate. That's my personal opinion, and you have your opinion. I just want to see what Paul's opinion is on that is because we got Mariana's opinion and David's already. So I want Paul's opinion. That's all I wanted. And if it can't, I'm not trying to make you the bad guy. I do apologize if it comes off like that.
I mean, I make myself look like the bad guy, but I'm just saying, like, the way you said it is like, literally, that's way unbalanced. Like, I didn't just straight shoot said good riddance.
Yeah, no, I'm not saying that.
You're not the bad guy, not the good guy.
No. Trust me. Anyone hears my perspective, what I said, they're gonna tell me I'm the bad guy. I don't care. But I'm just saying, like, again,
I'm not saying you're the bad guy. I am saying I feel it's a little bit inappropriate. That's all I'm saying.
If you're the bad guy, I'm the villain.
So if I had to switch it up, all right, let me just switch it up. For wrestling, it was what it was. As far as his life goes, as far as his passing away, because of how he passed away, granted, a little effed up. You want me to say it like that?
That I can't. I now understand better. I do apologize, Wally. I took your context out of tanks. I apologize. But
I said what I said earlier. I'm not like I said what I said, but I say it again. When I said it the first time, I said as a wrestler, that is what it is. He is who he is as a wrestler. But as a person, from an overall general view, or even my own, I said good riddance. That's the first initial thing. Yes, that's why I literally said it straight up. But as far as you're saying it's unsensitive, then that would be my switch if I had to switch it.
Mm-hmm. So, Paul, pretty much you heard my side and Wally's side. What do you have to say behind it? Because usually the wise man in this stuff.
Well, I just give a perspective, so I'll let people decide whether it's wise or not. I think one thing that this and many others, the older I get, the thing I'm always saying is, again, be careful who you choose as your heroes. Because as I said earlier, before Hulk Hogan came in, my guy, the guy I absolutely loved, which therefore indicates the guy I actually hated, was Roddy Piper. The most infamous to this day. I don't care if they kissed and made up. To this day, the worst thing I've ever seen in wrestling, the most disgusting thing I ever saw in wrestling, is when Roddy Piper hit Jimmy Snuka on the Piper's Pit with a coconut and beat him with a belt. I thought that was the most disgusting thing I ever saw. And I think it was way over the line. It was racist. And I just did not approve of that at all. But that being said, you find out about Jimmy Snuka and the demons that he had. And yes, it seems like, everyone's confirming now that he did delete his girlfriend, who he was having an affair with because he already had a wife and kids.
Mhm.
So when you talk about professional wrestlers, especially the wrestlers of that day, these guys had like dual lives. There's the wrestlers when you're on the road, and the dalliances, the ring rats, all the stuff that they get into. And then you have the product, which we see on TV. And we're awed by their ability and their talent and wow, and how they make us feel and the energy that they exude and their ability to cut a promo and all that kind of stuff. So we talk about Hulk Hogan, Dusty Rhodes, Superstar Billy Graham, Don Morocco, who are, to me, are on pretty much and Ric Flair. I mean, these guys are on the top as far as getting you to feel in certain ways. Even Roddy Piper, in a negative sense. These guys make you feel or emote, and especially as a 12, 13, 14, 15-year-old kid. I mean, it certainly got you going. No question about it.
Mhm.
So, but just like you look at any historical figure or known figure, if you want to be mature about it, you have to make that separation between what they did in their vocation versus their personal lives. And I can certainly understand Wally when he says the person, especially which we found out later on. And again, it depends on who you talk to. Some people thought he was the worst. And his own actions and the things that came out of his own mouth. Certainly, he lost a lot of credit with me. I used to think of myself as one of the original Hulksters. I believe some of that stuff. When he said, train, say your prayers, and eat your vitamins, I ate that stuff up when I was younger. I had a Hulkamania t-shirt that I proudly rocked for a while until I heard what he said about his daughter dating a black man, and it wasn't pleasant. So I felt a certain way. I'm not rocking with him anymore.
Mhm.
So I can certainly understand as a person to say if the way Wally feels, and I certainly as an African American, I can certainly understand someone like Wally when he says good riddance or something similar to that on a personal view. But as I just described, and that's why I laid out since at least from 1979, when I first heard his name, when it was the Incredible Hulk Hogan. He was actually managed by classy Freddie Blassie, 1979, 1980, to the Thunderlips Hulk Hogan in Rocky III, to the AWA Hulk Hogan, where Hulkamania was born, and Sports Illustrated came out with the Matt Mania, to the Hulk Hogan that came to WWF in 1984 through the WrestleMania, and so on and so forth. That's why I've laid it out. You cannot deny that. You cannot deny that he was the guy, the main weapon that Vince McMahon Jr. used to essentially destroy the territorial wrestling system as it was known at the time. Now, again, if you're an OG, if you're old school, like I know Eric is, and some of these guys, they will never forgive Vince McMahon Jr. for what he did to professional wrestling when the kayfabe era was prevalent, and people believe this stuff. I mean, to be a professional wrestler could cost you your life because fans were so passionate about it. If you beat their guy, you had to watch going back to your car because either your tires were going to get slashed, your windows were going to get broken in, or you get stabbed.
Or even shot.
Or yes. So again, So again, I mean, the seriousness which people took it, and Vince McMahon took it in another direction. Hulk Hogan was the perfect guy to do that. If it wasn't Hulk, it could have potentially been superstar Billy Graham. I would say Hulk Hogan is a much better worker than Billy Graham ever was. He was an awful worker. He had a great body, a revolutionary body at the time. No wrestlers ever looked like superstar Billy Graham. He had the mic skills. but he didn't have the training background, the wrestling background. He couldn't take bumps very well. He didn't have in-ring wrestling. I mean, go look at some of Hulk Hogan's Japan wrestling. Hulk Hogan could wrestle. I mean, he had skills. He was taught by Hiro Matsuda. He had skills. He could wrestle. Look at some of his Japanese stuff from New Japan or whatever. He could get down.
Yep, because I remember reading his book and his first day during boot camp, for various terms. His trainer broke his leg to teach him.
Yeah. And I give him credit because again, that would have took off in his first day. He broke his leg.
Yeah.
He healed up. He came back months later after he healed and he said, I want to do this again. I got to give him credit for that because most of the time that was that would have been it for most guys. Hulk Hogan was highly limited in the U.S., but like I said, in Japan, he was the guy. That was by choice of Gagne, and that was by choice of McMahon. I'm saying Superstar Billy Graham couldn't get down at all. I saw Superstar Billy Graham's Japan stuff, and he wasn't very good either. He was just an inferior athlete when it came to that kind of stuff. Hulk Hogan was much more a better athlete than Star Billy Graham was. So, so all those things. So I got to give him credit for going, like you said, all the way back at the beginning, having the guts. And he was so passionate about wanting to become a professional wrestler. He gets his leg broken on day one and he comes back and goes through a hero's camp, which was not easy, just like Vern Gagne's camp wasn't easy. Vern Gagne would just shoot on you and be like, look, if you show up tomorrow, then I guess you're in. But that's how it was. Because, again, people took professional wrestling very seriously. There was no tough enough competition. They would weed you out very quickly and hurt you if they even hinted that you were thinking this was just a joke. They'd shoot on you and you'd be jacked up for real, for real. So I give him credit for coming back. I give him credit for building up because, again, if you go back and look at his early pictures, he was a bit on the thin side. Whatever he did in the weight room, in the supplements that he took to build up his body, he did all of that and made himself a star. He learned from Superstar Billy Graham. That's how he kind of got his craft going. Hulkamania, that was his creation. And he made it work. And like I said, whether you hate it or not, in terms of where wrestling went, the rock and wrestling era, if you hated that, if you hated the Saturday morning cartoon era, if you hated the train saying prayers, eat your vitamins era, if you hated all of that, fine. But it appealed to a lot of men. Saturday night's main event back in the 80s was must-see television because it was the only show that would upstage Saturday Night Live.
Mm-hmm.
They would literally take Saturday Night Live off the air to put on Saturday night's main event. All of that, again, because of Hulk Hogan. He could move, but again, he wasn't, and McMahon Jr. was not going to take him seriously with it. He had all the moves and all that kind of stuff, but he didn't have the body. Again, Vince McMahon Jr., as we know, he's a muscle guy himself. He works out, and all that stuff. And he had an idea of what he wanted. And Dusty Rhodes, even though he appreciated those things about him, you see how he really felt about Dusty Rhodes because he put him in polka dots. So he didn't care that much about it. He appreciated Dusty Rhodes to a degree, but he wasn't going to have someone with that physique, him, Adrian Adonis, those kind of old school fat wrestling physiques. He did not want that to be the face of his champion.
But one thing I do want to say, Paul, is if it wasn't Mehmet Jr. Destroying the wrestling that was back in the 80s, it would be somebody else. Somebody else would destroy the tutorials at one point or the other. It was coming either way. If it wasn't him, it was somebody else.
Mhm.
But I want to ask you a question because you mentioned about the Ride Piper with the coconut thing, because I'm a little bit too young to remember that.
I
What
remember.
made that racist? Because again, I'm too young to remember that. I apologize. I'm coming out like
So
a little.
again, Roddy Piper had a history of anything ethnic he could exploit or take advantage of, he would do it.
Mhm.
If you were black, he had stuff to say. If you were from the islands or Asian or whatever, he would always walk that line, if you will,
The fine line.
of ethnic degradation. I would say that. So if you watch that Piper's pit, he called him a monkey. Why don't you climb trees? Here's a banana. Here, monkeys eat bananas. Here's a banana.
It went too far.
Way too far.
Mhm.
And when he hit him with the coconut, then again, then he mushed the banana in his face. Then on top of that, he took the belt off, which was not a little belt. It was like a belt right here, and he was whipping him on the show. So again, I'm like 12 years old. Like I'm watching this. I'm like, what the heck is this? So again, I never really got, Roddy Piper. And again, I know they've done angles like years later where again he was apologetic and all this stuff. I hit you with the guy. I'm sorry. All that's good. But again, Piper was never quite straight with me. Now, Piper was Eric's guy. But that was never cool with me after he did that. But he
Let me ask you
always
another question,
walked that
Paul.
line of that stuff, and I didn't appreciate it at the time, and I still don't.
I don't remember why he did this, but I remember Piper coming out, his half his body painted black one time. People called that Ray racist when he did that. Did you agree with that or disagree?
I wouldn't call it that. I think it might have been ignorant because again, you're talking about blackface when it comes to minstrel shows, and minstrel shows were basically sort of these vaudeville acts that came out in the 1920s, where you had these white actors and performers will put blackface on and quote unquote mimic black people. And so it was certainly a very derogatory way in which black people were projected. And so anytime, even today, if a white person or any non-black person decides to paint themselves black, it affects, especially people who know their history, it affects black Americans in particular in certain ways. And so what is the reason why are you painting yourself that way? And even more so, why are you even projecting and acting that way? Now, again, at the time, Piper was a face. He was going against Bad News Brown. And I guess the angle he was trying to paint was that, certainly doesn't matter if you're black or white, brown, because Bad News Brown, he was kind of like this pro-black type of guy at the time. And I guess it was Piper's way of saying it doesn't matter if you're a baby, it doesn't matter if you're black or white, like Michael Jackson, whatever. I don't know what he was trying to do, but Bad News Brown didn't take that well. And you look at Shoot interviews himself, he was like, what are you doing?
Mm-hmm.
So again, there's been some very controversial things that Vince McMahon does, which I don't appreciate. And when you look at guys that he's talking about, who was the guy who came out with his quote unquote hose, the hoe train? Who was that guy?
Man, I know what you're talking about. It was an African guy too.
Yeah. So I mean,
Formerly known as Papa Shango.
who was that?
Formerly known as Papa Shango. That one was kind of like
The Godfather.
Yeah, the Godfather. And then you also had with One Man Gang. He got reincarnated as Hakeem, and he started doing his black stuff, hey brothers, and cool like this and stuff. I mean, so Vince McMahon has always had some uncomfortable, let's just say that, some uncomfortable character creations that certainly, if not racist, they were certainly stereotypical.
I
That
know
again,
one
as you
thing.
So, real,
Go ahead. Go ahead. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
no, because I wanted to ask you this, because as I was hearing Paul Bennett say this, right? So, I know you said Roddy Piper had did some things back in his day amongst wrestling, right? But like, now is he the one that orchestrated those, or was he the one just being told that? Because we all know these guys are built on a script, so that's just.
Thank you, Wally. That was the same question I was going to ask.
Well, yeah, because honestly, because now understand, because I can understand if you're built on a script, I won't take too much heavy on you because, of course, it's a job. Now, granted, personally, they may come out and say, hey, look, that was the job. I didn't love doing it, but personally, that was the job. And, as a pick or choose notion, right? However you want to look at it. I mean, I don't really hold them up because I know it's like, okay, let's be real. They're telling you this, the script. You may want to do this. You may not. One or the other, however it goes. But I know first and foremost, that's the script. And that's more of a Vince with whoever he has amongst them doing that, because we all know people behind the scenes were also just as much racist as anyone else in the business at that point in time.
Okay, I would say this. So again, you could look up. Piper talks about the incident himself.
Oh, no, yeah, no, that's what I'm
now, right now, Eric. Now, but I'm getting to your question. Now, Eric, he had mentioned Chief Strongbow. So again, Chief J. Strongbow, who, by the way, was not a Native American. By the way, he was an Italian, but he put those feathers on, and he went around and did his war dance and all this kind of stuff. All right, so that's how do you feel about that? He was basically a what do you call it? Not a roadie, but what do you call it? What do you call the guy backstage? What do you call it? I'm having a brain freeze right now.
Not a roadie then.
But he was basically one of the guys in the back, one of the arrangers or whatever. The guys go around and say what how the show's going to go, who goes on first, last, whatever. However you want to.
Okay. Yeah, I know where he's speaking on. But, yeah.
So he was that guy. So they were going to do the pit. Now again,
with the bookie.
What's that?
Bookie.
Book or booking or agent. I think is what they call him now. But that being said, he's the one. Piper says that it was Chief J. Strongbow who told him that he should hit Snuka in the head with the coconut.
Right.
Now, that being said, but Piper, before then, go back to before he even got to WWF, he was known for, again, going below the belt.
Oh, yeah. No, that's
so the idea is, as far as the monkey thing and the banana thing and all that kind of stuff, basically saying that he was a primitive man, that was all Piper.
Okay. No.
Now, whether or not, Strongbow told them to hit him with the coconut or not, let's say even if I give them that, but basically they know what they have. They know that Piper is a flamethrower. He's that guy who will cross lines that a lot of people will not cross. And they use that to their benefit. And so, so again, I'm not saying that they might have been involved in directing some of those actions. Now, again, did Strongbow tell them then to take off your belt and start striking them with real strikes across the back with his belt on national television? I don't know about that. All I know is Piper said that it was Strongbow who told them to hit him in the head with the coconut. And the coconut, from what I understand, was not doctored. They didn't, like they do with these dudes, the chairs. They would die. It was not doctored.
Yeah.
And if any of you guys ever felt a real coconut, it is not a brittle. It's not an egg. So again, a lot of that stuff, I'm still leaving most with Piper. When it comes to that.
Well, back then, you understand, they told them ideas what to say. They had no script like they do now.
No, they didn't give them ideas. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, you had to be on your own. Now everything's scripted. Now, back then, nothing was scripted. Nothing was scripted. You either sold or you didn't. Which is why a lot of people were upset when Bob Backlund was champion, because he couldn't sell a paper bag. But again, he was an excellent wrestler. He was a tactician, technically sound, and he was a shooter. So if you messed around with him, he could hurt you. But that's what Vince McMahon Sr. wanted. He wanted a all-American boy, goes to schools and teaches wrestling to kids and all this kind of stuff. He was tired of the ethnic champions because especially in New York City at Madison Square Garden, it caused too much heat. Guys were getting threatened, guys were getting stabbed. I think Pedro Morales got stabbed. So he was trying to get away from the ethnic champions because again of the passions of the people who, like I said, back then wrestling was taken way more seriously. When superstar Billy Graham beat Bruno Sammartino in Baltimore, again, he had to run out of the ring, and he was saying he was swinging the belt around because, again, people were egging him and throwing drinks and bottles at him and stuff. I mean, again, because you're messing with our guy. New York City with the Italians, that's why they did it in Baltimore. They couldn't have done that in Madison Square Garden. Otherwise, he wouldn't have made it back to the back. So yeah, so to answer Wally's question, or just to clarify again, yeah, I'm putting most of that on Piper.
Oh yeah, no, that's all I want to make sure because again, for me, knowing what it is right now, that's what I'm saying. Like the differences, because even to this day, like even on a current time frame, there's a lot of things I've seen that they've written that was clearly what it was. So it's like, just want to see like if it was the same on the back end, because of course that's just written and all this. And if it's written, most people can know what's going to come ahead of time and all this. So it's like, hey, you already know what's going to come. You already know what the stick is. Like,
The only thing you knew was obviously they were gearing up for a feud. That's all you knew. You didn't go in there. Yeah. And I was like, I don't swear, but that was a swear moment at the time. I was like,
no, Paul, I'll be honest with you. I agree with Wally. Some things they say and did in the 90s, 80s, 90s, early 2000s, early 2010s, even now. Sometimes you question, like, this is going too far sometimes.
Mm-hmm.
And, like, how far can you push it? But you gave it a great example. Okay, Roddy Piper had, okay, this is what you need to do. Execute it. And he went too far at that point. Way too far.
Mm-hmm.
And, I'll give him one thing credit. I know you don't like him. When he was on the mic, he was hot. You can't deny
it. 100%. I said, guys, like I said, that's why I said back then, especially at the age that I was, you could sell guys into the building. But again, that was a few guys. Again, the guys who were on top, that's what they did. Don Morocco, Roddy Piper, like I said, superstar Billy Graham, Dusty Rhodes, Ric Flair, they would sell you into the building. Certain guys like Harley Race never did anything for me. You know what I mean? Even though he was a 7-time NWA champion, again, same thing with Tarek the Funks and all those guys who came in the 70s and all that, really didn't do it for. Even Bruno Sammartino wasn't the greatest on the mic. He wasn't. But the fact that, again, Italians, he was like a source of like national pride for them. That it didn't matter. It didn't matter what it was. Yeah, we said prior to the Snuka feud, but he came in '83, and it was him. It was Paul Orndorff. It was Dr. Death or whatever. And from what I understand, he did a face turn in NWA. He was not always a face in NWA. I think he became a face later on, especially when he had the feud with Greg Valentine. I think he might have become a face then, but certainly he wasn't always so. And so again, but I've seen some of the stuff from the Portland promotions or whatnot. Again, he always walked that line of being this sort of an edge. So again, but again, I can separate out again for what he was tasked to do. Him, Hogan, a lot of those guys, especially from the 80s, they were very good at what they did in terms of selling the product and getting you to buy a ticket and wanting you to be engaged, whether it be on television or in the arena. As people, that's another story. But back then, that was the business. That's why, again, Jake Roberts, again, Eric says that he was the devil on the road. Jake Roberts, he would say all the time, do not, if the worst thing to be is to be married and a professional wrestler. And if you are a professional wrestler, do not bring your wife on the road, because she's going to see a lot of stuff, even though if you're not even partaking in it, but she's going to see a lot of stuff. And she may want to say something. It's like, why are these guys doing this? Hey, that guy's married. Why is he going in there and picking up these women? And what are all these women coming out of his hotel room? And all they're smoking, weed, and which wasn't legal back then. And all the substances and the drugs and just all the stuff. It was like an extreme lifestyle. You have to, even today, I would think, most wrestlers are extreme people. But back then, it was like the Wild Wild West. Just like a lot of sports were back in the 70s. Football players, basketball players. When Michael Jordan came into the league, if you ever watched the documentary, The Last Dance, he talked about what the state of the league was when he came into the league. Again, guys on the road, they'd have their women, they'd have their drugs. Wrestling was no different. And so when you find these things out later on, it may skew your opinion of how you look, especially if these are people who you thought were your heroes. But again, a lot of people, Bruce Lee disappointed me because I found out later on that he had a major drug problem. So again, at this point, I don't have many heroes. I can look at Muhammad Ali, a serial cheater. I mean, so again, he did a lot of things that weren't necessarily kosher, even with his declared faith as a member of the Nation of Islam. But guess what? Neither did the leader of the Nation of Islam. So that's another story altogether. But I'm just saying, you could look at it, a lot of people in history and look at their past when the biography comes out or the autobiography comes out, and you realize, man, I didn't know they were either dealing with that, or you didn't know that much about them, that they had a whole nother life from what we were presented. But when everything comes to the floor, you gotta, again, it's hard. That's why it's hard to judge his. Look, I mean, this country, a lot of those early founding fathers were slave owners. How am I supposed to deal with that? I could say they can all rot, or am I going to have a more nuanced perspective based on the world that they grew up in? I don't know. But that's why it's hard to judge, when you're looking at, the way things were done, how women were treated, how minorities were treated, the way wars were fought. Again, to look at past with our 21st century mindset is very hard. And when I look at a person, that's why I can praise a person for their acts. But even in my day-to-day, would I say stuff like somebody who I knew was kind of like, morally questionable, I may talk about what they did. I may not say, okay, well, yeah, that was a great guy, or that was a great woman, or a good guy, or good. Because I don't know. I don't even like to, even if I don't have any evidence of that, I don't even like saying that. I could say a person was good to me, but who am I qualified to say that person was a good person or not? I have no idea. We talk about, we go into these funerals and you meet all these stepbrothers and sisters that you didn't know you had because your father was out there, or your wife or your mother was out there. What would I say then if I found out that went down? I don't know. So again, but as far as Hulk Hogan, the stuff he did in his later life, and obviously, this last year, he did some things that certainly I didn't, I wouldn't say appreciate, but he just went in another direction. I'll just say that. Mm-hmm. And, so I don't want to necessarily speak on that end. I don't know what the state of the relationship with his kids, his daughter, From what I understand, I was strained. I don't know the relationship with his son. I know his son has had problems. You know, so again, it's that kind of stuff. More and more, I tend to stay away from because I mean, if we want to start digging up closets and whatnot and open up closets, you'll find a whole bunch of stuff. But I cannot deny I would say this. Hulk Hogan is probably the most influential, the most important person in wrestling. I would say at least in the last maybe 70, 80 years. I know you had Gorgeous George, and I know you had again the Bruno Sammartinos and those MWA champions and whatnot. But as far as relevance to wrestling, if you want to call it that. Now, some people say he wasn't wrestling, he was sports entertainment. Okay, I get that. Again, for the territory guys who are forever the territory guys, they will never forgive Vince McMahon Jr., and I get that. But the current product that we are seeing today, whether you like it or love it, Hulk Hogan had a lot to do with that. And that needs to be recognized and, even if you don't want to, accept it. Because that's what he did. So if you want to say my Mount Rushmore, at least what I've seen in my 55 plus years, Hulk Hogan, I would say Ric Flair. It's really those two. Everybody else is like I could leave those two guys up there by themselves. Now, you can say people want to say John Cena or some other legend that's out there, but as far as like on the top level, it's like what you want to say 1A and 1B. And I would probably even make a case for Hogan because Ric Flair did not take Wrestling National. Now, he was on TBS. Which was a national platform. But the type of national expansion that Vince McMahon did, Ric Flair wasn't part of that until years later. You can still say, you can make a case that Hulk Hogan is the GOAT. Based on where he was in time and history, what he did bringing wrestling mainstream, and now again, I love Ricky Steamboat is on my Mount Rushmore. I would put him in there as far as one of the greatest wrestlers. If you want to talk about just pure wrestler, somebody who you just look at and just see the fluidity as a performer, Ricky Steamboat is in my top 3. I love Ricky Steamboat. I mean, why he didn't have a long title run or whatever, I think they should have gave it to him years ago. Even when he was back in the Carolinas, he should have got a shot. But I mean, just beauty to watch. And if I was to throw a fourth guy in there, I might put like a Randy Savage up there. But outside of that, I don't think there's a lot of debate in terms of who had more influence on that. Maybe The Rock or Stone Cold. I mean, certainly those guys were certainly big. If you want to shuffle the deck a little bit, you're not taking Flair and Hogan out of the Mount Rushmore, as those two guys are definitely on it. You want to put Stone Cold, you want to put The Rock, you want to put someone else in there. You can fight it out if you want to have those guys there. Andre the Giant, if you want to put him out there as a guy, but there's not a lot of guys who command that space. Ric Flair, Hulk Hogan, there's no question. So I don't want to take up all Marianne, you listening patiently. I don't know if you've I want to take accommodate this conversation, but yeah, that's all I have to say.
We're going to final thoughts. Does anybody else want to add anything to it before we go into it? No?
I'm gonna get my final thought. I gotta take care of these. Final thought, people, ladies and gentlemen. Hulk Hogan is a icon that was needed for the business. Either we like it or we don't. You open a lot of doors for many of the feature wrestlers to realize they were trying to make money, the type of business that people would not think would last. Yes, he broke up a lot of territory and now some of the territory coming back in different formats, but still, he created an avenue so people could actually make a lot of money. Should it have been union back then? Yes, should have been. So this way you have less of our wrestlers dying from crazy TTE, drug-related issue, alcohol-related issue, and so on and so forth. But other than that, as a wrestler, he would do great there. As a person, I'm not feeling that. That's just my final thought.
Um, yeah, I will say Hulk Hogan is, I will say he's like the Americana uh of the, I will say Americana icon of the wrestling pop culture. With everything, which, from the time when he reached to his highest to his lowest. Um he made this how it exists today. Without him, this will not, it will not even get to that point where it's now. Um, Either you love him or hate him. At the end of the day, he was a businessman. But now, now he's gone. You know, God rest his soul. Thoughts and prayers for his family and everything. I know that he was, going through a lot of battles, and especially, he had a lot, he had a lot, he put so much work on himself, but, he did a good beating on his body. But other than that, he's a legendary. He will never be forgotten. And, it's unfortunate. It's happened, especially in the wrestling business. You had to take care of yourself. But what can you do? I mean, life goes on, but not for the ones who really are close to him. But all I could say is, it's not easy where he went from. But I know that other than that, just it's a difficult business that he was in. But other than that, um, yeah, it just that without him, I will, because I always was so memorized as a child watching him when I was growing up. But other than that, um, yeah, just, he will be remembered as, the wrestling icon. The, that's something that will never be taken away. But that's all I can say about Hulk Hogan. So that's it.
So my final words, pretty much the same as anybody else here. For wrestling, Hulk Hogan was America's wrestler. He just was. He'll wave the flag. He'll pretty much do the most simplest things, and even with the most simplest things, he'll get the hype crowd. Hey, you can't knock it. The yellow and red was phenomenal. Hulkamania, aka WrestleMania. He was that. What else would I say? But at the same time, as well as him being just a national hero, I mean, he was also a national rebel. NWO, that was just that. If you're talking about the clique of all factional stories, it's probably up there as one of the top 5 factions in history of wrestling, or in general of just WWE in total. It was just that good. It was just that good, and that was based upon a flash in the can experiment. But it worked. It worked. But hey, but like all things, like I said, that's wrestling. Um, but yeah, but other than that, nothing more, nothing less. I mean, that's what he is. He's a great champion. I'll leave it right there.
I think I said more than I need to say tonight. Yeah, you can make a case he's the GOAT, and prolific as prolific a career as anybody, and on his wrestling side, his personal side, I'm getting too old to dispute that with people or spend a lot of time on that. To the earlier point that Mariana said, he has children who I'm sure are grieving, and certainly prayers to them, and those who cared about him. Certainly, he had bad movies. Come on, jeez, he had good movies. Now, see, now I say again, I don't want to speak ill of the dead, but I don't know that last point though. Okay, all right, I'll roll with it. But yeah, like I said, impact on wrestling. If you have ever done it as he did it, and yeah, he's one of the pillars. That's it.
Thank you, guys. Thanks for everybody's opinion. Thanks. I want to end it with my personal opinion. I think he was the GOAT. I think he's a legend, and we're never going to see anybody close to his level it was. He transformed wrestling. That's my personal opinion. But I'm gonna have a long talk with you, about your movie taste, housewife. I'm like, we gotta have a long conversation, me and you. But except that, let's do a quick schedule update. I wish I had it up. I didn't. Like that ding dong I am. So we are having a gray area tomorrow. Me and Paul, and the show will be. Give me a second, get that up. We're gonna have a show tomorrow. That's what I'll leave it there. I'm not gonna waste my time trying to find it right now. And on Tuesday, we're going back to corporate America. And on Wednesday, you guys are talking about. All right, one of you guys help me with his name because I'm gonna butcher it.
Samurai X.
Thank you. Then we're going with that version. And Paul will be talking with Coach, Burning from Within. Except that, any final words, guys, before we go? No? As always, guys, I am the Spartan. He is Black David. She is Mariana. He is Wally, Mr. President. Stay fresh, stay safe. I'll see you guys on the next one.